Now, would you be concerned with the view that of late India's foreign policy has been in transition mode from Nehruvian neoliberalism? Support your answer with the help of suitable examples. So India's foreign policy has indeed, तो यहाँ क्वेश्चन क्या बोल रहा है, would you be concerned with the view that आप क्या कंसर्न होंगे इस व्यू से कि इंडिया का जो फॉरेन पॉलिसी है वो एक ट्रांजिशन मोड में है। कब से? नेहरूवियन नियोलिबरलिज्म, नेहरू नेहरू का जो था। तो देखते हैं, इंडिया's foreign policy has indeed witnessed a notable shift from Nehruvianism to a more neoliberal approach over the past few decades. So this transition reflects India's changing domestic and international circumstances as well as its evolving aspiration in the global arena. So Nehruvianism, क्या है? Shaped by Jawaharlal Nehru vision, established a foreign policy characterized by non-alignment and socialist orientation. However, by the late 1980s, the limitation on the of the approach became evident, particularly regarding economic growth and need for modernization. Transition to neoliberalism. The economic liberalization that began in 1991 makes a pivotal moment in the Indian foreign policy shift. The liberalization policies aim to open up the India's economy to foreign privatization. The shift led to a greater economic growth and integration into the global economy. So India also started prioritizing strategic partnership, especially with major powers like US. The US-India Civil Nuclear Agreement 2005 exemplifies this shift, representing a departure from the traditional non-aligned stance to a more pragmatic alignment based on mutual interest in security economic cooperation. So Harsh B. Pant emphasized that this agreement was pivotal in establishing India as a key player in US foreign policy in Asia, indicating a significant realignment in India's international relations. Now, several contemporary initiatives illustrate India's neoliberal foreign policy. Act East Policy 2014, it reflects a commitment to integrating with the regional economy and fostering trade relations, showcasing India's proactive engagement in the Asia-Pacific region. Make in India initiative, this policy underscores India's shift towards an open economy and its commitment to fostering a conducive environment for global capital. Ravi K. Sinha posits that India's foreign policy has increasingly been driven by economic consideration, arguing that the neoliberal approach prioritizes economic growth and global integration over ideological commitment. He highlighted that this shift enables India to pursue strategic interests without being hindered by the rigidities of non-alignment. However, scholars like Ihan Hall argues that Nehruvianism still persists in India's strategic culture but with significant modification. The rise of Hindu nationalism has also influenced India's foreign policy, with leaders like Narendra Modi promoting more muscular and assertive approach. The transition of India's foreign policy from Nehruvianism to neoliberalism is evident to India's economic. दूसरा क्वेश्चन, does the idea of 21st century as Asian century continue to remain feasible given the growing friction between India and China? So the concept of 21st century being the Asian century was predicted on the rapid economic growth and rising influence of Asian nations, particularly China and India. However, growing friction between two has raised question about the feasibility of the idea. तो key challenges पे आते हैं, economic contemporary versus strategic rivalry. Economically, China and India have both been engines of global growth. However, their strategic rivalry and competitive ambition in Asia threaten to cohesiveness of this area. This rise. Shiv Shankar Menon acknowledged the economic potential of both countries, but warns that their geopolitical competition, particularly in South Asia and Indo-Pacific, could undermine regional stability and cooperation. That is, BRI, superheaded by China, is seen by India as a challenge to its influence in South Asia. The border dispute with the military tension, border dispute between the two, particularly the standoff in eastern Ladakh and 2020 Galwan Valley clash has further strained the relation. Harsh B. Pant argues that the Galwan incident marked a turning point in India-China relations, making long-term strategic cooperation unlikely. Military tensions have also impacted economic relations. India has imposed restrictions on Chinese apps, signaling a shift away from economic interdependence. A regional and global alignment, C. Raja Mohan notes that the rising rivalry between India and China is leading to a fragmentation of Asia into different spheres of influence, which undermines the collective rise of Asia as envisioned in the Asian century narrative. Despite the friction, some scholars also argue that the Asian century could still materialize, albeit in more fragmented form. Kanti Bajpai, ये क्या बोलते हैं, notes that while geopolitical tension will persist, both India and China have a strong economic incentive to avoid full-scale conflict. strong economic incentive to avoid full-scale conflict. He suggests that Asia's economic rise may continue, but the political and strategic aspect of the Asian century will be more complex. While the concept of Asian century remains viable, the growing tension between India and China have complicated its realization. Addressing these challenges through diplomatic engagement, economic cooperation, and institutional reform is essential for revitalizing the Asian century narrative. Revitalizing Asian century narrative. Now, discuss the potential role that India could play as a leader of the Global South in realizing the global goal of establishing a new international economic order in 21st century. The new international economic order was proposed in the 1970 by developing nations to address the inequalities in the global economic system. India, with its growing economics and geopolitical influence, has the potential to lead the Global South in establishing NIEO in the 21st century. So, India has historically been a strong advocate of Global South, playing a leadership role in movements such as NAM and G77. Kanti Bajpai argues that India's historical stance in favor of global justice and its support for decolonization and anti-imperialism gave it moral authority within the global south. India's economic rise in recent decades has significantly bolstered its ability to represent the global south on the global stage. So, as per Harsh B. Pant, India's growing economic power allows it to serve as a bridge between developing and developed worlds. India has been a vocal advocate for reforms in Bretton Woods institution, IMF and World Bank and WTO to make them more representative of interest in developing countries. So in this context, कौन है? Amrita Narlinkar highlight that India's persistent demand for reform in global governance are grounded in its belief in multilateralism and the need for a more equitable distribution of global economic power. Amrita Narlinkar highlighted that India's persistent demand for reform in global governance are grounded in its belief in multilateralism and a need for more equitable distribution of a global economic power. India's leadership in the International Solar Alliance is an example of how it is championing more inclusive and sustainable economic order. As per Ravi K. Sinha, India's success in the sectors such as IT and space exploration demonstrates its ability to offer solutions to the developing world. So India's engagement with other countries in the global south through platforms like BRICS, IBSA, and South Cooperation reforms its leadership role. Also, India's role in climate change negotiation underscores its leadership in global south. However, China's rising influence in South Asia, India's international development issue may challenge its leadership capability. India has the potential to lead the global south in establishing an IEO. Various scholars emphasize the need for India to address internal challenges, navigating complex geopolitics, and promote innovative